All right, let's get started with our monthly presentation. Tonight we have Lee Imber, WW2DX, with us tonight, and his topic is remote ham radio. I believe we'll have you share.
Okay. Everybody hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Looking forward to doing the presentation tonight. I think it's going to be fun. And if you like antennas, I'm going to show you a lot of antennas. So it should be pretty cool here. All right. So let's fire this up. You should see a slide, right? Let's see. Look okay?
Looks good.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Remote ham radio. I'll probably ask the group after the presentation if you've heard of RHR before or remoted or anything like that, but we're going to go through a whole bunch of stuff here. So let's get started. All right. So who am I? I'll give you a little bit of street cred of my ham career. I was licensed at age 12 in 1987. I grew up in Maine. I was actually born in New York, but grew up in Maine. Moved back to New York. That's where I am right now. I'm about 60 miles north of New York City in the Hudson Valley currently, where it's a nice balmy 32 degrees. And that's me on the helicopter, the old helicopter landing pad on St. Paul Island, where I was last year for DXpedition. I was there twice in 16 and 19, and we just landed, and we're scoping it out for our next deployment here. I'm a big DXer. I've got 9-band DXCC. We're closing up on my 10th and going for 12. So pretty active, to say the least. I'm at 332 for DXCC. What that means for some of you new hams or people getting into the hobby, that's the amount of countries that I've made contact with and confirmed those contacts. So 332 countries around the world. Today there's about 340 radio countries in the world. So I'm getting close to all of them. What the chance of working all of them are slim to none. We'll see what happens. I was a WRTC competitor in 2014 in Boston. For those of you who don't know what WRTC is, it's basically the ham radio Olympics. You compete for 4 years in big contests to qualify, and then you go and you compete against about 60 other pairs of people in tents, all within a few hundred miles, and you compete for the gold essentially. So it's basically Radio Olympics. So that was 2014, and I've been on a ton of DXpeditions over the years. I really enjoy going on DXpeditions, activating fun places. Recently, I've been doing a lot of moon bounce DXpeditions, which I've been enjoying a lot. So setting up and bouncing 2-meter 2-meter frequencies off the moon, portable. My professional history. I started with Xerox Corporation in Connecticut, and then I went to work for BBN, which is the actual company that started the internet, the ARPANET. I never met Al Gore. I never saw him there, so I don't know how he invented it, but didn't see him. Maybe I just missed him. I don't know. Went on to work at GTE Internetworking, Genuity, numerous startups, and then recently Hudson Valley Towers and RHR, which is what I'm going to be talking about this evening. That's my vacuum variable for one of my projects. Figured you'd like that for all you builders here, and some of you OMs. You probably noticed the Ranger in the back. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to cover a few things here. We're going to talk about the who, the what, the where, and the why about RemoteHamRadio. We're going to go over some of the stations, the locations, a little bit of techie talk, the vision of the company, and some contesting stuff and youth initiative that we have that we're very passionate about. And then we're going to talk about, then we're going to have some Q&A at the end if you guys have any questions about any of this stuff. It's quite a few slides, almost 100 slides here. So I'm going to kind of move pretty quick. So if you want to make some notes on anything specific, that's cool. So what is RHR? it's a radio as a service, right? So we basically, in a nutshell, we build beautiful engineered amateur radio stations. We place them in really nice locations. And then we have a technology where amateurs can remote in through the internet and operate those stations. So that's what we do. It's like having your own personal 24/7 tower crew. We have to maintain these stations. We got a lot of network engineering experience, really good developers, and we're extremely passionate about the hobby, like probably obsessive, probably at times, for sure. So who are we? It's the four of us. Myself, WW1X is Rockwell Schrock. He's the lead developer, extremely talented engineer. Ray, W2RE, and his son Bobby, KC2UPN. They manage all the maintenance of these stations. We're going to go into a lot of these stations and some really nice videos and pictures of some of this stuff. And in the background, this is one of the contest stations we have in the Catskills, in the Summit Catskill Mountains. So why start a remote business? We get this question a lot. Prior to the remote business, we had a tower business. Ray and I had Hudson Valley Towers. We're going to talk about that. And we ran up and down the East Coast, and we built stations for guys, for hams. Towers up, did maintenance, fixed stuff. We did that for a number of years. And around the same time, Ray was building this contest station that you saw previously in the Catskills, and we were contesting from there. And the station sat dormant most of the year. We operated maybe 6 or 8 contests, and other than that, the station just sat there, nothing going on. And a lot of our tower customers were in homeowner associations, HOAs. They were in penthouses in Manhattan. And so they're like, man, I really would like to operate the hobby, but is there a way that we could operate that contest station up in the mountains? And we started thinking about this. I don't know, is that possible? So why do people remote? Why, it's becoming very popular now. And so there's a number of reasons. HOA restrictions we just talked about. Bad things can happen, like ice storms. You take all your antennas and rip them down off the towers. It's never fun. You don't have to deal with the maintenance. That's all on us. The headaches along with that. RFI problems, lightning strikes, all that stuff sort of goes away. Happy neighbors and happy wives is always a big plus. Not too many XYLs will like huge towers in the backyard, but some do. Location is key, right? It's all about location. So you'll see some of the locations that we have. What is it like? What's it like to have the keys to a Ferrari or a Tesla? Well, that's basically what we do. And the propagation advantage, right? Placing these stations to have the edge. So a little history. Hudson Valley Towers was the tower company that we started, ran around, did tower work for a lot of people on the East Coast. And we did stuff mostly for the hams. We had commercial and government contracts. We did work for NASA. We did some stuff for Homeland Security. Majority was on the East Coast. We did that for about 5 years solid. It was probably more like 7 or 8, but really full bore 5 by 5 years. So we ran around the countryside and built big stations or little stations and all over the place. This is Ray and I doing some work on a NASA project. They had these really sensitive, they were trying to push planes off the runway much faster than normal. They could try to see turbulence quicker and try to move traffic control quick. So we did small projects like this, little towers, and we did much bigger projects with huge rotating towers and cranes and all kinds of stuff. So we kind of covered the whole spectrum, if you will. There's a shot of our Eastport main station. We'll dig into this a little deeper, but this is one of the stations we built in Maine that's on the remote network. And you see the water, that's the Bay of Fundy, and the land on the other side of the Bay of Fundy is Canada. That's where that station is. This is probably the closest amateur radio station in the continental US to Europe, right here in this photo. So we had this contest station up in the Catskills, and we're sitting thinking, geez, could we actually operate this awesome contest station up in the mountains? We're about 100 miles to the south. Could we do this? So we started looking around at what's out there. How are people doing this today? So the first thing we ran into was this ICOM 706, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So we took this 706, and anyone who owned one of these radios, if you put it in your car, you had this cable called a separation kit, right? So it was this long 12-foot cable. You'd stick the body of the radio in the trunk, and you'd mount the faceplate up in the front. You use this cable to extend the faceplate, right? So we basically would cut that cable in half, and we stick the internet in that cable, right? So that's basically what we did. We used these things called remote rigs. And so all this stuff was kind of off the shelf. And we're like, well, what does that look like? So then we got the radio. So here you can see the ICOM radio and going into this little black box called the remote rig. And that was that goes into the internet, right? And that faceplate is wherever else on the globe. And a little solid state PA there. And so we hooked this stuff up for the first time. And I drive the 100 miles home. And it was actually Thanksgiving morning. And I made a little video. And hopefully you guys can hear this. Let's see if this works. Let's give this a shot.
And I thank you. 7-3. Good night to you. Whiskey Victor 3 Delta. Is that a Charlie Yankee?
Whiskey 2 Delta X-ray.
7-3. Is that a 6 Charlie Yankee?
Whiskey 2 Delta X-ray.
I think it's Whiskey 2 Delta X-ray. Correct me if I'm wrong. Good evening to you. It's Bill, B-I-double-L, over.
Okay, Bill, very good. Good morning. Nice to work you again. Name here is Lee, Lima Echo Echo, located about 100 kilometers north of New York City. And actually, you're my first QSO here testing out a remote rig. I'm about 110 miles from the station. That's about 700 meters above sea level.
So you can see here, this is just the faceplate sitting on the table, and the antennas and everything are 100 miles away, right? So you kind of lose that perception of, the antenna's not in the backyard, right? It's pretty amazing. So as soon as and you hit the power button and this thing comes to life, and you're like, oh my God, right? Wow. So it was my first real taste of what this remote thing was all about. It's like, okay, this is real, right? Hit play here. Okay. So we started playing around with, okay, so we can make this connection happen. How do we control the station, right? You got all these rotors, you have antenna switches, you have all this stuff going on, amplifiers. How do you control this stuff remotely? So we started with all this off-the-shelf stuff that was out there, but it was just hokey and, it wasn't a very good operating experience. So we started hammering away at that a little bit more. And long and behold, the Elecraft K3 came out. And the K3 came out, and they also came out with a remote head for that radio. And if you look at the picture in the top right corner with the laptop, that K3 radio on the left-hand side is the same size as a real K3, except it's empty inside. It's just a remote head that was designed for remoting. So, so you have your laptop, your paddle, and behind the laptop's a little remote rig box, and you're operating these huge towers thousands of miles away, right? So it's like, okay, we're getting warmer here. And so when we first started the business, when you signed up for our service, we actually sent you one of these K30s, sent you a box with all the cables and everything you needed to get up and running and start operating these remote stations that we had. We had 3 or 4 of them when we first started. So you got this box and you plug all the stuff in and boom, you're up and running. So then Rock WW1X wrote the first web-based web console to control the station. So here we can see our antennas, rotor control, the amplifier, how much power we're running, what frequency we're on. So as you're tuning around the band with your radio, this is, you're controlling the station. All the pieces that you need are all here in this web interface, right? There's no software, just a web page. And at this point in time, we didn't have any audio layer here. This is just control for the operator, a little chat window in there. So this is sort of version 1.0 of this web console that we built and designed. And you could use it on your iPhone or iPad and turn the rotors from whatever. Is more of a gimmick at the time, honestly. So this is feeling good, right? We knew things were working, but it really had to be real, right? It had to feel real. You had to feel like you somebody. We've done this. We sat people in front of a remote setup, and they had no idea that they were operating a station 500,000, 3,000 miles away. It was a really cool experience that we had nailed it that much, and that magic, like the first time I turned that 706 on and it came to life, you could see that excitement there. So we had to kind of push a little harder and go, okay, we got some really complex stations. How do we make all this complex stuff super easy for a remote user? So we had to really dig down and engineer a way to do that. So beautiful engineering, right? Making the complex easy. So that's really the challenge we had in front of us. So you take a station like this on the right with all this switching and cabling and all this logic that you got to figure out, all these pieces, and then somehow give that power to a user with very few buttons and very few, have to sort of make it super intuitive for that person, right? And we did some really cool things. We still do. We could do things like, let's say you were talking about the 10-meter contest this weekend. And let's say you have, you take the rotor controller and you say, I'm going to point it towards Japan. Well, as the rotor starts to spin towards Japan, we may have a third tower that has a better antenna for Japan, and we'll magically switch you over to that antenna on that tower, that third tower. And if you bring that rotor back over to Europe, we're going to put you on the first tower with stacks towards Europe, right? We do all this magic under the covers for the operator. So they don't have to think about it, right? They just want to get on, make contacts, work DX. And so we did all this cool magic under the covers for the operator, right? To make them have a really good experience. And we had a lot of controls in place, right? So they couldn't overdrive the amplifiers. We limited the drive power and the amps, things like this. We did all that kind of cool stuff. So, what does it look like today? So here you can see, this is our newer console here. We got a waterfall. We use flex radios today, full SDRs. And so I'm going to play this little GIF here. And this is a 4-square, an 80-meter 4-square array. That's 4 vertical arrays, 4 65-foot verticals in an H pattern. And we're going to switch the pattern of that antenna. The red is the transmit antenna, and the blue is the receive antenna. So you'll see I'll start clicking the buttons here and switching the patterns, switching the directions of the transmit. And then we just click and switch the direction for the receive antennas. As easy as that, right? Super intuitive, super easy. So we had this cool technology. We had a way to present it to an operator really cleanly. So now we have to build this network out, right? So we're going to start going over some of these stations. So these pins are stations that we've had remote stations at. Some of them aren't there anymore, like the one in Iceland, and one in Siberia, and they just didn't work out, or the person moved, or whatever the case may be. But it kind of gives you a general idea in the East Coast, West Coast, a couple in Europe, stuff in the Caribbean. We'll go over some of this stuff. So this is sort of our lower tiered sites. This is Hudson Valley here near me. A typical average Archer station will have Yagis on 40 and 30, and nice tri-band Yagi, 6 meters. We start going in the Catskills. This station here is 2,300 feet above sea level. You can see the beautiful takeoffs here looking towards Europe. And 2 elements on 40, 2 elements on 30. And this particular station, we're in the process of doing 2 meters and 6 meter EME arrays here. So this will be kind of new for the system to do some moon bounce fully remote, which I'll talk about a little bit more. This is the Summit contest station we talked about earlier, about the one that sat dormant for a long time. And kind of sparked this whole thing. And you can see there's 4 towers here at this contest location. So growing up in Maine, I had a very good idea of how propagation worked. And Maine is really special when it comes to propagation. It's awesome. And so this is Quoddy Head Lighthouse. This is in Lubec. This is the easternmost point in the continental U.S. towards Europe. And the majority of our big stations are all within a few air miles of this location. And we get a little bit of snow in Eastport as well. I don't look forward to that too often, but there it is. Here's our Lubec station. This is probably 3 or 4 air miles from the lighthouse. The tower in the foreground that's 8 over 8 over 8 over 8 on 6 meters on a rotating tower. When the 6 meter season's happening, it's pretty crazy to operate that antenna array. Both of these towers are rotating. Those are big tri-bander stacks in the background and a big 4-element 40-meter Yagi at the top there. This is another flagship station, our Eastport station. And those are 36-foot boom tri-bander stacked, 3 of them, and a 3-element 40 at the top. And this is a 63-acre parcel that we picked up and built this station out. This is a 160-meter foursquare here. And this is going to be a little video here. Let's see if this works. Okay, so you get the right idea. So that's 7 over 7 over 7 over 7 on 6 meters on that tower on the left. And you're looking at the Bay of Fundy, and the landmass on that water is Canada. So that's how close we are. Let's see if can I skip through here? Okay, here we go. Okay, so that was our Eastport station. This is our Jonesport station. This is south of Quoddy Point. And you're looking at a 4-element full-size 40-meter Yagi at about 185 feet, somewhere in there. And the small little 6-meter Yagis on the right-hand side and the other tower, those are 5-element 20-meter Yagis. So you can see the contrast in size when you see a full-size 40-meter Yagi. This is what we call the GXP Super Stack. So these are 4 36-foot boom tri-bander stacks. 4 of them on rotating tower with a 4-element 40 at the very top on the same location. And this is a lot of fun. This is a 5-element 80-meter Yagi beam, wire beam, strung between 2 towers at 185 feet. It's crazy. That's all I'm going to say. It's pretty awesome to operate that antenna. And we talked about the foursquare earlier, and this is what an 80-meter foursquare is, 4 65-foot verticals. You can steer it by clicking instantaneously different directions, about 15 to 20 dB of front to back. And here's another little video here. This is Jonesport as it's being built. No sound on this one. So the right-hand tower is the huge 7 element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 element 10-meter Yagis stacked. And that's where the 4/4 40-meter Yagis are going, which we'll see here in a second. The top 40s being installed as we look at this. And you can see one of our buddies Roman up there getting that Yagi in place. And the back tower in the far back is a 15-meter tower, stacks on 15. And then the tower on the far left is the big GXP super stack there. And this is a blueberry field. So Maine has many, many blueberry fields, and this is all a big blueberry field here. So while you're building antennas, you can have a snack. It's pretty nice, actually. So you can see Roman there throwing that big 40 around. I think that antenna weighs, I think it was around 680 pounds, 700 pounds, something like that. And here's another shot of Roman here on the tower. Hope you're not scared of heights. And that's the gin pole. That's what we use to pull sections up. And here we are doing the ditch for the coax and all the control for the rotating base of the tower. And a little spin by. This is when we just finished the quad stacks here. It's a nice location, shoots downhill towards Europe. It's beautiful. And very quiet. So this is in your backyard. This is our W7 Portland station near Bald Peak Park, I believe. That's where that station is located. I don't know if anybody knows K2PO Bill, but that's Bill's station in Portland. Rotating tower. It's our station in Seattle. It's a rotating monopole. And then we have a few stations outside the U.S. Let's see if anybody can guess where that location is. That is, you're looking at Port-au-Prince in Haiti. That's where that shot is taken. And in Haiti, there's a air ambulance charity that a good friend of mine started after the devastating earthquake. The country does not have an air ambulance system, so he put one in. And that's HH2AA. So if there's any DXers here and you've ever worked HH2AA, that's the whole story behind it. So HH2 Air Ambulance. So we wanted to give back with this project. So every QSO that's made on that remote station in Haiti, all those proceeds go right here to the air ambulance project. So it's pretty awesome. It goes to fuel and all kinds of cool stuff. You can see the two choppers in there. And there's U.S. Comfort in Port-au-Prince. That's Ray and I hanging out in the bay there. So now we're up at the location where the remote station is. This is at 6,300 feet above sea level. It is an absolutely stunning radio location. I probably would say it's probably one of the best in the world, I think. In the Caribbean at that height. You're looking right down into downtown Port-au-Prince. You can see the airport strip down there. And just an incredible, incredible location. We put a couple of tri-banders stacks here with wires off these towers for 40 through 160. We put a second tower up, and we put a little rotatable Yagi from 10 through 20 meters with a work bands and a 6-meter Yagi above that. This is a full solar battery powered station. no utility power up on the mountain. Internet is odd. It can either be, we have two pipes up there. We have a 4G LTE connection, and we also have fiber. But in Haiti, there's no telephone poles. They just take the fiber and they roll it through the trees and lay it on the ground, and you just don't know what you're going to get. So it's down more than it's up. But when it is up, it's pretty amazing. It's quite impressive. We have a station in Croatia, another beautifully built station. It's legal for U.S. hams to operate there as long as you hold a advanced or extra class license, SEP legal. You can apply for your own 9 Alpha 5 call. Pretty easy to do. It's really a cool experience operating from Europe. It's a whole nother world. And for any satellite people maybe in the club, there's a satellite called Oscar 100, which we can't operate here in the US. It's a geosynchronous satellite over Africa. And it basically covers from Thailand over to the far eastern tip of Brazil. But there's no coverage here in the US, but we'll talk about that in a second. Then we have a station in KP4. This is during hurricane. Luckily, it did survive, which was great. So we're also contesters. So we do a lot of contesting. And when we first started this business, there was a lot of naysayers, right? You know, this remote stuff's garbage. Can't do anything with it. It's horrible. You know, you just can't get that real life experience. Latency is too bad. So the first thing they were saying, well, you can't be competitive in a contest, you know, while you're remote, right? You can't do that, right? So yeah, we can. So we won WPX phone from there, and we got a little shot here on the top in the front of CQ Mag, my mug shot there. And if you notice the guy behind me, that's David, NA2AA. He's the new CEO of ARRL. So we won a contest, and they said, well, you can't finish the top 10, right? You can't do that. So yeah, we can. So we won a bunch of contests in first and second place. Actually more than this list. So yeah, we can do that too. And then they said, well, you can't win world. That's impossible. And we just did that. So we won WPX. And so this multi was actually really a cool thing. We had a bunch of youths. So half the operators were OMs and half were kids. And we did a multi full remote. And it was just absolutely awesome. We had such a great time, and almost cracked 30 million points in that contest, and won the world there. And there's a ton of other wins too here, but HH2AA, as a matter of fact, world single op all band low power. And it's pretty crazy to think that a solar battery station could do something like that. So what's our vision here at RHR? It's really simple. We want to get hams on the air. That's what we do, right? That's our passion. We want people to operate, get on the air, get on the bands, work DX, get some activity going. That's what we're all about here. It's our passion. And we started a youth network. And so the couple things, there's a form on our website for anybody under 25 can come in as a youth, and we basically just give the kids access to the network, right? Here you go. Here's remote account, go have fun, play radio. And it's been really, really good. It's been awesome. And we have about 50 kids on the network right now. And the long-term goal, what I really want to do is I want to build a youth network, meaning a network of all stations using colleges, universities, high schools that have all these ham stations that aren't used, right? They're just sitting there rotting away. We want to put RHR technology into these schools and then build this network for kids, and they can just connect in and operate any of these universities or schools or whatever, right? So that's really, really a goal we want to push towards and make happen. And we're getting there. Of course, COVID put a little bit of a hold on that, but we'll get there. So we'll build this education network. And we have about 50 kids on the network today. Some of these kids are unbelievable, really amazing operators. I don't even know how it's possible at their age, but we're going to talk about one of them here in a second. And right now in Europe, Europe has a more aggressive youth initiative there. So right now in the month of December, they have what's called YODA, Youngsters on the Air. And so all the different countries get these special YODA calls, and all the kids operate and they compete. And you can see here the station that's making the most contacts is 9 Alpha 0 YODA, which is the 9 Alpha Croatia station that's on our network. So think about it. All these kids can just remote in and just make tons more contacts, right? Because of the technology. So it's quite amazing. So here's one of our use, AA4LS. Kids crazy. It's unbelievable. 250 Qs an hour in CW. SO2R running 2 radios simultaneously. He's beating guys that have been doing this stuff their whole life. And it's just absolutely amazing to see that talent come up. And we just got to grab these kids and pull them in and really give them the tools to really hone those skills. And it's just awesome to see these young kids and what they're capable of doing at such a young age. It's awesome. And so they have this thing every week called the CWTs, actually a couple times a week. And it's just a 1-hour contest, CW contest. I think there's phone too. It's 1 hour and you make as many contacts as you can in that 1 hour. And here's one of his latest ones. So you can see 200 contacts in 1 hour CW, right? It's pretty awesome. All right. Future of remote. Don't panic, right? Where are we going with this stuff? So I have an EME station right now that I'm testing. It's already built, prototyping. I made a ton of cool 2-meter EME contacts off the moon. Russia, all over Europe, Japan, New Zealand. Pretty awesome stuff. This is the remote station that's being tested. It's a Flex, runs a solid state 1,000-watt power amplifier. Currently, it's just running 2 small 9-element Yagis on 2 meters, but it's going to be 4 16 Yagis. And if that kind of goes smooth, we're going to build a really, really big EME array in Maine at the Eastport location. Something really crazy. So this is another little short video we talked about earlier, this Oscar 100 geosynchronous satellite over Europe and Africa, the Middle East. So it's geosynchronous. And I'm going to show you here. If you notice, the frequency here is 10 gigahertz. So this Flex, we have a transverter on it that takes the downlink frequency of 10 gigahertz. And we'll play this video here. And you'll see the spectrum. There's a lot of signals on the band here.
Merci, до побачення. QRS Satellite, United X-ray 0, Florida, Florida. QRS Satellite, United X-ray 0, Foxtrot, Foxtrot. CQ Satellite, United X-ray 0, Florida, Florida. Uniform X-ray 0, Foxtrot, Foxtrot. QRS.
Yeah, so there's a UX0 Fox calling CQ on this satellite, 10 gigahertz down. I think it's 2.4 gig up and 10 gig down. So the goal is to bring access to this cool satellite to North American hams, right? So if you're an advanced or an extra class ham, you can remote into the 9 Alpha station and operate this this QL100 satellite. So a lot of cool stuff we're trying to work on here. More future stuff. Starlink is in beta right now. This is Elon Musk's global internet company, and it's looking pretty good from what I'm seeing. I'm waiting for my beta invite, and you're going to see more of this sort of, you know, shack in a box on a island someplace, right, with an antenna, and you're going to have these remote stations. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And it's got, I think there's some good things to that, and there might be some bad things to that. But the good things are there are some really dangerous places to go on this planet that are extremely dangerous to get to, very expensive to get to. This may allow us to make those types of things happen easier The other cool thing is the expeditions that go on these, you have 20 guys, 10 guys go on a DXpedition. One of those stations is probably going to be remote, one or two, and you're going to they're going to sell that time to so you're going to be home in Portland and remoting into BS7H Scarborough Reef, and you're going to be operating, and you're going to pay for that slot, but that's going to help fund these DXpeditions moving forward because they're so expensive. I mean, the last couple big ones were $500,000, $750,000 to go to some of these places. So it's it's getting harder and harder to figure out ways to fund these things. So this is coming, no question. Already working on this stuff. And the other paradigm that shift is sort of this, traditional knobs and buttons, and definitely has its place, the traditional cockpit, if you will, with the gauges. And that's going to a glass cockpit. And that's where we're moving to here, is this sort of glass cockpit operating thing. And that's where we are. So what I'll do now is I'm going to show you a quick live demo of the console. We're going to see how the bands are looking here. Let me stop this, and let's go ahead and grab the app. Okay, so you should see the console here. I'm going to power up the station. So I just powered on a station, the Jonesport station. We can see the band here. I'm assuming you can hear that. You can hear the radio.
Well, I heard a little bit, but it's I don't hear it now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard it a little bit when you first started. It may have been coming through your microphone.
I wonder why you don't hear that. Does the share audio stick when you change apps or no?
It should, although if you maybe just try to share this one app instead of, you may just try to share it again.
Yeah, let me try that again here. Let's see. Do screen. Oh, okay, it is share sound is checked. Optimize just checked. Wonder why that's not showing here. Let's try this one more time. Let me see if there's something here. Microphone. I wonder if I do this. I don't know if I'll hear it. Let's see what happens.
They're talking about the variation on the virus must be more contagious because a lot of people are catching it quicker.
So
I'm not sure if it's true, but it seems
so
to
we're
me
listening
as
to a
though
guy in
it's
England
more
right now.
contagious than the original
He's
one,
S9 plus
well,
15. And right now we're on this.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
We're on this 5-element wire beam on 80 meters towards Europe. That's what we're actually listening to this guy on. And I'm going to switch it to the 4-square. When he's talking here, we're going to see the front to back difference of this array.
It's going to be a rough couple years, I think. Yeah, it is. Rob, you said you got
S8.
Is it RG8U?
No, he's on the Yagi.
Or RG8U
pretty crazy.
On its own? Do you know which one it is?
So here we are. We got this live console, which is just a web-based console. I'll bring this volume down a little bit here. And we can do a number of things. Let's go to, say, we'll go to 15 meters. And so you can see in the little map here, the Yagi is currently pointed towards the Pacific. And we could just hit the Europe button here. And you're going to start to see that Yagi turn. And now we're spinning that big tower all the way over towards Europe currently. So we got this large spectrum. We can look at the whole band. Of course, it's 11:15 here on the East Coast, so we're not going to see anything here on 15. But if we go to 80, we can look at the whole 80-meter spectrum here in one shot. And we can just click around the band and work DX, whatever it may be. And if we find a clear frequency, we got an amplifier output here. And if I modulate, you can see our output. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. WW2DX testing. About 6, 7, 800 watts out. So the operator has full control here. He can turn the rotors, switch antennas, watch his output on the amplifier, change bands, do whatever he needs to do, and we can instantly disconnect from here. And we can go to here. Here's Croatia, right? And I can come over here to Croatia, power up the radio, and now I'm connected to Croatia. We can listen in on what stuff sounds like from Europe right now. And there it is. So, quick little demo of RHR. Hope you liked it.
Short question.
Yeah.
Where was that St. Paul Island you were talking about earlier?
St. Paul Island is just north of Nova Scotia. It's off the northern tip of Nova Scotia, right in the, what's the strait there? It's in between tip of Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. It's right in the St. Lawrence Seaway.
All right, I was on St. Paul Island in Alaska for a little bit.
Oh yeah, different one. Yep, absolutely. Matter of fact, I'm supposed to be on Sable Island, which is 100 miles due east of Nova Scotia in the Atlantic. It's called the Graveyard of the Atlantic. It's a floating sandbar.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be there in the fall, but COVID kind of put the squash on that, so we're hoping to go there this coming fall, hopefully.
Okay, I ran across a station and kind of like you're looking at. Guy in Northern California, he wrote the software for laser printers and multi-millionaire, and he's a single guy, so he had all sorts of amazing stuff.
So yeah, St. Paul, yeah. So I don't know if anybody has any other questions about anything that you saw tonight.
Well, Lee,
Yes.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Max.
I was going to say I've known about Remote Ham Radio for a number of years. I have not signed up for it, but I think I might actually after this. I did not realize, I knew it was impressive. I knew you had a lot of stations, but seeing the pictures and just getting the background and the history and seeing where you are today, holy cow, I did not know it was that impressive.
Crazy, right? I know.
That is really cool.
Sometimes I'm still shaking my head like, how did this happen? Yeah, it's crazy.
Could you speak to a little bit more about how other people can use this? Is it via a website? If so, what's the URL to it? Are there different options for using it? How is it free?
Yeah, so we're a for-profit business, and it's RemoteHamRadio.com. I'm not really here to sell anything to you guys. I just wanted to kind of show you the technology and what we've accomplished. But yeah, super easy. If you're interested, you go to RemoteHamRadio.com, check out the website. You can send a ticket in, send an email in. But we have plans that are very cost effective, and all the way up to these huge, big gun, crazy, massive array stuff. So yeah, it's we kind of try to cover the whole thing.
So is it through browser, or does it require software installation?
So you can operate with, there's a number of ways to operate, but you can just operate just a Google Chrome browser. You can just a browser you can operate. We have a native app that will run on Mac, PC, Linux, whatever. And if you have a Flex or any like a Maestro or something like that, you can use a Maestro to connect up. But honestly, the web interface is where it's at. For sure. We put a lot of work into making it efficient and smooth and easy.
So if you're operating remotely, do you need to use the station's call sign, or can you use your own call sign /R or /M or what?
No, you use your own call sign. You don't have to do anything. It's perfectly legal. The only exceptions to those rules are if you're operating like Puerto Rico, you'd sign Kilo Papa 4, stroke your call. If you're running Croatia, you'd be 9 Alpha, stroke your call. And the only other exception to that rule is operating the Haiti station. Everyone has to operate as HH2AA. That's the legal requirement. You can't operate HH2 stroke your call. You have to operate the club call station. But anything else, you can operate anything your own call sign. Doesn't matter. There's a legal aspect, and then there's a, you want to, in other words, when you're say I'm in New York and I'm operating a station on the West Coast, you want to make sure that you ID properly in the sense that, hey, this is Lee, WW2DX, I'm sitting in New York, but I'm operating from Portland, Oregon, right? You want to make sure that that's fairly clear. It's you don't want to let somebody know that you're operating on the other side of the country when you're not, right? It's not the cool thing to do. It's not illegal. It's just,
Okay, for anybody who actually takes advantage of the availability of QEX and other other league publications, online, there was an article in the November-December issue of QEX that actually outlines how you can set up to operate remotely using a Raspberry Pi at the remotely relocation to so that you don't have to, you're not tied down by your HOA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the remote technology there's a lot more off the shelf stuff coming that's being developed every day. Absolutely, and it's only going to get better. No question about it. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in a situation where I really can't put up antennas where I live. However, I would, give my eye teeth to be able to set something up somewhere else where I could actually access it over the internet.
Yep. That's exactly what we do. We got a lot of people in your same boat, right? That are in these HOAs or, even they may have a good location, but it's noisy, right? Or they're just hardcore DXers or contesters. They just want that next level of experience. That's what we're doing here. Yep.
Yeah, looking at the website, looks like you have plans starting out at $100 a year, kind of like what your membership plan is.
Yep, membership.
And then it's a per minute, so you have both RX only, just like shortwave listening, I guess.
That's
and
correct.
then also transmit, and it's per minute. But
correct.
some of the lower, like the 100-watt stations look like they're about anywhere from 9 to 39 cents a minute.
Yeah, so we have stations that range from 9 cents if you're transmitting, 9 cents, 5 cents if you're just listening. So, and that's the beauty, is that you're only paying for what you're using, right? You're not, there's no hidden fees, there's nothing like that. You always know where you are in a month. And you're right. So if you're just getting on and want to rag chew with your buddies, you grab one of the 9 cents a minute sites, right? For a cup of coffee, you hang out for an hour and talk to your buddies. If you're out chasing DX, well, it's a whole nother story, right? You can pick a station with a Yagi and some power, and bam, work a new one, right? So, it's all in what you want to do.
Is that so? When you do the billing, is it if you pick like a 39 cents a minute transmit? Is that you could listen for 50 minutes and transmit for 10 minutes? Is that still 39 cents per minute? The whole thing?
Right. So if you connect at receive only, then you'll get the lowest rate, right? But if you connect at a transmitting rate, 100 watts, you connect at 100 watts or QRO, right? 500,000, 1,500 watts, whatever. Then regardless of what you're doing, it's that meter's going, right? Regardless if you're listening or transmitting, whatever, it's you own that station at that time frame. So it's whatever you want to do with it. So nobody else can connect to it, right? So that's how it works. Nobody can bump you.
Do you have a reservation system?
No reservations. First come, first serve. If you book a station for a contest, what we can do is we'll take that station and put it in what we call a private console, and we'll place that in. Only you can connect to that station for the duration of the contest. So if you operate for 15 hours, you go to sleep, you come back, you don't have to worry about somebody on it. Just you own it for the weekend. It's all yours. So there's that, but most everything else is first come, first serve. And typically, it's a very common question, and we get that a lot, especially for DXers. Well, what happens when a DXpedition shows up? Well, the reality of the situation is these stations are so powerful that, you turn it on, you turn the Yagi, you 1 or 2 calls, you work them, you turn the thing off, and, that whole process keeps going. So that's typically how it is. It's really designed for the DXer. That's how we started off, was really for the DXer.
And is this both Mac and Windows?
Yep, absolutely. We're an all Mac shop here. Yep.
And then do you have any like minimum requirements for a laptop?
No, I mean, people use Chromebooks. People use their iPads. So not really. I mean, it's not, crazy old, decade or more, but, anything fairly modern in the last 5 years should be perfectly fine.
How do you interface CW to the laptops?
So there's a couple of ways to do CW. We have a built-in CW macro based inside the console. You can just type it out and it'll just send it. You can hit macros, which are really efficient for working DXpeditions. But we do have hardware where you can USB in a box into your computer and plug your paddle in and crank away and work CW. So yes, you can do traditional CW. FT8 is very popular today, as you probably know. There's a lot of guys are operating FT8 on the remote. Still some RTTY stuff, RTTY contesting. Pretty much any mode that's audio based can operate over the remote. We've won CW contests fully remote, so it works pretty awesome, really awesome.
Yeah, one of the reasons I invited Lee to present this was because I know a lot of us do live in places with HOAs where we can barely put up a hidden wire antenna, and just the new options of doing remote radio. We did actually set up a remote radio for field day, but the logistics are not the technical part, but like logging was our big thing. Like, how do we get all these remote people to log the calls for field day? So we're still kind of figuring that out. But I think for the everyday, ham person that wants to get on HF, this is just an excellent way to not have to buy a radio and put up antennas and things like that.
Yeah, the maintenance. I mean, you think about, we ran around and installed tower systems for guys. I mean, you're dropping $25,000, $30,000, right? And for pennies on the dollar, you're operating a station like Jonesport or Eastport, right? These massive antenna arrays. So you just turn it on and you turn it off. You don't have to worry about if the thing falls down, right? It's all on us, right? So it definitely has its pluses and minuses. I mean, I personally believe everybody should experience building a dipole and throwing in a tree and working DX, and you should absolutely do that. This service has its place, right? And it's not for everybody, but it does fit the boxes for a lot of people who are dealing with those issues with noise and HOAs and all that kind of stuff. So it's a happy medium for sure. So another tool in the toolbox, honestly, at the end of the day.
So with each of these stations, typically does only one person connect at a time?
That's correct. Yep, one person connects at a station at a time. That is absolutely right. Yep.
And are the stations usually owned, like the house or the property owned by somebody else, and or do you guys get to go and stay there?
Yeah, so everything on the East Coast we own. Everything is owned by us on the East Coast, and then everybody else, West Coast, Caribbean, so on and so forth, they're all, we work with station owners. Yep. And we started with 3 stations. When we first started this business, we had 3 stations. And then as it grew, we just kept adding stations, and that's what we'll continue to do as the base, the demand grows, we'll just keep adding stations. But we're in a good spot right now. It's a good spot for the amount of users and, the usage. So it's good. We got good coverage. Now we want to get into more. We want to bring those unique experiences to the operator, like the moon bounce and satellite and, those types of things that, a lot of people dream about doing, but just don't have the time or the resource or the space. We want to really try to bring those experiences to the operator.
Could you say a little more about reaching out to youth? What in your experience is working, and what things aren't working, or what does it look like to get young people?
So it's super important. It's super important. The beauty with the remote is that it's instantaneous, right? We get a kid come in, say, "Hey, I'm interested in your RHR youth program," and within 5 minutes, he's on and operating, right? That's That's a huge, huge win. And you're reeling them in right when the iron's hot, and you're just throwing them right in there, and they have access to all these seasoned operators, and you really get to Elmer a lot of these kids, and I'm just blown away by some of the talents some of these kids are having. But and we invite them when we do contests. We invite them in for the contest. We get a bunch of kids together and we do some contesting. It's a lot of fun. So that works for sure. And we have a lot of work to do there. We have some really cool programs in place that we're working on and trying to get them going. It's definitely going to be the future. And we've trying to build a network in Europe right now. The IARU is trying to push for some remote youth stations. We're working with them right now. So this is only going to get bigger and better. And if we can leverage these colleges and universities, these stations that are just sitting there dormant, and we can get remote technology in there, it's going to be huge. It's going to be awesome. We're really going to be able to spark this back up for sure.
How do we reach you by email if we have additional questions after this session?
Super easy. You can send to lee@remotehamradio.com.
Okay, thanks.
Love to hear from you guys for sure.
And Pratik had a few questions. Pratik, did you want to just ask your questions, or do you want me to read them?
Who is this?
Pratik.
Oh, Pratik.
Oh, I see in the chat here. What
Yeah.
software are you using? So we've written all this stuff in house. It's all proprietary. You mentioned about contests and making contacts. So that comes from making contacts. What book would you recommend? Okay, so a lot of this stuff, Pratik, is going to be on the air experience. When you get your license, you're gonna jump right in both feet, right? Make some contacts. I would say advice for a new ham is don't stop at your tech. At least get your general. Don't stop there. Just go up and get your extra. Get it out of the way. And get on the air, work some DX, talk to people around the world, get bit by that HF bug. It's a lot of fun, and you're going to meet people all over the world, and you're going to learn so much about the hobby. I've been doing this since I was 12, and it's just been fantastic. It's been a great time. Yeah, no problem on the mic.
Lee, do you have anybody that just uses your the receiving? Because a lot of times I know people in the city, if they put up a modest antenna, sometimes their signal gets out, but their noise level is so high.
Yeah. So couple things there. We have a number of Europeans. So the U.S. does not allow SEPT remote operating. So a European operator cannot remote into the U.S. and operate legally. There's a misconception there. So U.S. specifically says boots on the ground, right? So if you come here from another country and you have a SEPT license, but you're here on land, you can operate from the United States. But remote, they don't see it that way. Most of the European nations are the exact opposite. They're like, hey, your license, you have it's SEPT legal. We don't care where you are, right? We care less. So it's interesting how it's a little different. As for receiving, we have a number of Europeans and a lot of Asian customers as well that will use the remote SOBL service only. A lot of them are checking their own signals from home to see how their antennas are working, right? So you do that a lot. A lot of them just want to listen from the US and sort of get a feel for what the propagation is like. A lot of them are doing FT8 receiving, trying to figure out what those propagation trends look like. But yes, there are a handful of hams who are in Boston or New York City, and like you said, have a pretty good transmit antenna, but the noise is just horrible, and they'll just listen to one of the stations in the Catskills or something like that, and they'll say, okay, I can hear that station or get a feel for what the difference is in noise level. I'm assuming that's going on. Yeah, the technology is pretty wild. Yep.
Could you characterize the network latency and bandwidth requirements for various setups?
Yeah, so typically, it's like anything else. From here to the West Coast or vice versa, you're looking at maybe 30 or 40 milliseconds. If you're going to Europe, it may be 110, 125 milliseconds. you're never going to notice that. It's just too fast or too short of a latency that you're going to notice that even in CW. I mean, we had a friend of ours who was in Egypt, and he remoted into our Catskill location and did a contest. He had 600 milliseconds of latency, CW, and he still finished in the top 10 in the US in that contest. So even with crazy latency, it can be possible. It can be annoying, but at the end of the day, you're not going to notice that on the network. It's just too short of an issue, honestly. And for bandwidth, you can adjust. So basically, what takes the bandwidth is the waterfall. So you can adjust that. You can slow it down and really cut the bandwidth down. It's anywhere. I don't know. It's like it's probably anywhere. I'm trying to remember what it is when it's at the slowest. Maybe 250 kilobits, something like that, and it's probably a meg or two if you crank it all the way up. So depending on what your pipe is, but for the most part, it's you'll never notice it. You won't even notice it.
Hey Lee, have you ever thought of charging for hand holding for like a 3-hour sessions or something? It might, if it's a little bit of a difficult ramp up for some people, having somebody work with them on a shared screen to show them how to do it might mean spending more money with you guys.
Yeah, so that's been asked a few times. So we have a bunch of videos, video tutorials. I try to do a bunch of videos, kind of walk you through the steps on how to use the console. Basic stuff: turning it on, turning the rotor, setting up your microphone, that sort of stuff. We have a bunch of those videos out there. But yeah, if it's pretty intuitive, but if you did get stuck, we have fantastic support. I think we just crossed over our 10,000th ticket, support ticket recently. So we're very attentive to our users for sure. So yes.
Good.
And we've had hams licensed and only operated RHR. I mean, the first contact was on RHR. So kind of goes to show you how even right off the top, they just come in and start operating.
Hmm.
One of the things that's we are kind of at the low of our sunspot cycle, making voice contacts not as enjoyable as they used to be a few years ago. Hopefully that'll get better. But I would imagine that using some of these stations that you have really kind of brings back the ability to get a lot of contacts through voice. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. You're bringing a tank to a knife fight, right? So you got a lot of metal in the air there. It's a lot of firepower. Some of these stations are just massive. The amount of gain these systems have are crazy. Many times, you can get on 10 meters in Maine and work Europeans, and nobody else will work Europeans from there, right? Because of the gain, the location, so on and so forth. That's why FT8 is so popular, right? Because FT8 changed that game for us right now, where it can decode signals 25, 30 dB below the noise level. So it's almost like taking the sunspot cycle, right, and raising it artificially, because the technology can decode these signals so weak. So, that kind of put a Band-Aid on the solar minimum. But once the sunspots start heating back up, which is happening now, you're going to see a lot more sideband activity as the bands open up. There's no question about it. It's definitely going to happen, especially 10 meters.
Well, thank you, Lee, for your presentation. That was very interesting. Are there any last questions?
Was it an interesting presentation? Was it too fast? Was it too slow? Was there too much information?
Thank you. It's good.
Cool.
That was a great overview. I think you did a good balance of staying on the technical things and talking about the history of how you built this. And that, I think, is an interesting story.
Great. Awesome. That's what I was shooting for. Good.
And those towers are impressive.
They are. I know, right? It's crazy. A lot of fun.
Where's where's the Bald Peak station? A group of us go up to Bald Peak to work soda and QRP. So we go up to Bald Peak Park. So he must be pretty close to there.
Yeah. So see what he told me here. He told me he is. He says between Newburgh and Hillsborough on Cheltenham Mountain. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Chehalem.
Yeah. So that's
down the road. Chehalem Mountain Road.
Yeah, down the road from Bald Peak State Park is what he's telling me.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that station.
Yeah.
We go up there and severely compromise ourselves with, wire antennas and 5 watts.
Absolutely.
Do soda.
A lot of fun. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Great presentation.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You bet.
Max, are you going to be available to talk after this is over?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We'll meet again for our monthly meeting in January on the 11th. And until then, have a safe holiday. And thank you again, Lee, for presenting to us tonight. It was a great presentation.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
And
thank you.
Feel free to hang out and chat. But I'm going to say thank you for being here tonight.
Awesome. Great. It's creeping up on midnight here, East Coast time. So I'm going to jump out of here and try to get a little rest for the morning. So 73, everybody. Appreciate it. Good luck. And if you have any questions, just send me mail. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.